A historic collapse for the Utah Jazz, history-making win for Greg Popovich as the Spurs head coach gets his 1,336th victory, the most ever by an NBA coach. For the third time this year, the Jazz had a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter and lost it. For the eighth time this year, they had a double-digit lead in the second half and they lost it. This one's not good. We're talking about it on POSTCAST. The Utah Jazz play three really fabulous quarters of basketball and then collapse in the fourth quarter. David Locke along with Ron Boone here on POSTCAST. To me, this one really hits in every way, Ron. It has three, I thought, of the best quarters of like hard basketball they played all year, and they were ahead. An absolute, utter defensive collapse. They get one stop in the final 6 minutes, 4 stops in the final 10 minutes. A single play that to me represents the lack of fight needed to win basketball games when Royce O'Neal gets moved under the basket on an offensive rebound on a free throw down 2 with your last chance to win goes out the way. And the thing we've kind of said all post is second half of the season, we need to see the mental fortitude that we didn't see in that Laker game. That they lose momentum and it rolls away from them the wrong way as the last kind of piece of this puzzle. We saw it against Dallas. David Robinson coming out to speak in the background. That's kind of what you hear. I'm sure you'll hear some of it through our headphones. And this is another where the momentum's gone and they just don't ever get – and I think it's the defensive stops. Offensively, they actually made plays. Defensively, they could not get stops.
I'm concerned with that. I'm really concerned with that, especially going forward here for the rest of the years when you can't, when you lose momentum and there's no way to get it back. I thought Quinn Snyder did a great job of calling some timeouts and trying to make sure that they try to put the fire out that was generated there by Murray there in that fourth quarter, but, it didn't work. So I'm really concerned about how they're losing momentum and not being able to get it back.
Spurs had not won a game all year trailing going to the fourth quarter. They were 0-34, and they were down 10. Like, you really shouldn't lose a 10-point fourth-quarter lead. The Phoenix Suns this year have had 44 fourth-quarter leads. They're 44-0. That's a championship-caliber team. We lost our third fourth-quarter lead this year in the fourth quarter. Now, to our credit, by the way, let's make sure you understand, we've had more fourth-quarter leads than any team in the league. Yeah. We're 40 second half. We're 36-9 in the second half when we lead going in the second half. The Spurs, that's where the Suns in the second half, if they lead by 10, are 44-0. That's a second half number. What are you seeing of why the Jazz can't stop these things?
What I see sometimes, David, is probably it's not pretty because sometimes we're not trusting each other. We're very good. Our pick and roll offense is very good. But, the draw and kick was something that the Jazz were very good at last year. That second and third pass, that hockey pass that some people like to call it, we're not seeing a lot of that. And so, you just have to point your finger here at the Jazz sometimes offense stalls because of that. And I'd like to see 2 or 3 passes and off your plays. And we're seeing a lot of pick and roll action that sometimes gets us in trouble.
So I 100% agree with you, but I'm going to play a little devil's advocate on this one just for sake of good postcast, okay? We scored 18 points in the final 5 minutes of this game.
Yes.
We probably scored on 60% of our possessions down the stretch. We got one stop. So, yes, I agree the offense needs these things, but we got one stop in 6 minutes of the game.
Well, defense has always been the signature of this team. So how did they lose the momentum? The defense. They just can't get it back. So I tell you, I'm just so concerned about the momentum that gets away from them, and they're not able to get it back. Now, defense definitely has to pick up. They have to do a better job of getting everyone involved. There's a lot that's on my mind about the Y4s. Some of it I don't want to get into.
I talked to Chauncey Billups the other night about what forms a championship caliber team. And I asked him about the stars that you have as a group. And he said those are things that actually should form your championship, that you have that pain and those scars. I'm concerned the opposite is happening here, that the fourth quarter collapse to the Clippers in a game 6, the Denver Nugget playoff series in the bubble, has left this team with scars that are still bleeding, that are not healed, and that they have not gotten through yet to be able. Now, that's a bunch of media gobbledygook stuff that I like, numbers and stuff, and this is all about psychology, but I've never been on a team at this level. But like, is there something that 3 years of struggle, like last year, frankly, we didn't do this. We were 45-2 in the fourth quarter when we led. So I would argue that maybe the Denver bubble is gone. But is there something where the failure of last year's playoff is still lingering in this group in some capacity?
I don't think so. I don't think it even should be. I mean, you try to improve your team every year. You try to, whatever your faults were last year, you try to improve your team because of that. Did the Jazz do that, or teams play you differently than they did last year? I mean, there's a lot of things I think go into play, and I'm basically talking defense now. Because if you're talking about the Denver Nuggets or the Clippers on how they defeated the Jazz last year, you try to improve your team to beat those guys, because that's what you lost to last year. So to answer your question, David, it's boy, that's for Danny Ainge and
Justin Zanuck. I don't mean to add like salt to the wound tonight, but the Spurs are the last in the NBA in offense and clutch.
Correct.
They're 30th in the league in clutch play and offense. And they scored every possession.
Yeah. And it seemed like it was the same play, pick and roll right in the middle of the floor. Murray was getting, those elbow type jump shots, but he's crafty, used the screens very well, was able to do something to make things going. Then you put him on the free throw line. He didn't have a 3-point shot there in that fourth period. And I don't know, Dave. It's just so hard to.
So the old saying is it's never as bad as it feels and it's never as good as it feels. This one feels like it has, like we're getting late in the season. There's not a lot of time left.
It should be better.
This one feels like it is like it's right. So it's not as bad as it feels, right, Ron?
No, it is bad. It feels bad. It really does.
So this, you know what? So here it is. Then this, you know what this is? This is your last come to Jesus as a basketball team. You got to figure this out.
Yeah, you got 17 games left. You should be playing very, very good basketball. And you're playing against a team that's they're basically not as good as you. Your personnel is better. And so you just can't lose momentum and to get it back. Now, they're the professional basketball team. They're good. I mean, they're going to have nights. They're going to have moments. But you just don't expect it from your team, I guess.
All right. So I've read the chat room while going through, and I generally would say sure. Like tonight, yeah, sure. Like, I don't think I agree with, like, the firing people and things like that, but just generally on all the other, like, I'm throwing things and, hey, like, the Royce not rebounding is great. Daniel House had a bad possession. He's not that's not how we play. Donovan did not really score in the second half when they started doubling him. They pinned us on the sidelines. We couldn't get things done off, defensively late third quarter. We scored 15 points. We actually were so great defensively. We actually won the quarter. I mean,
I know we're harping on one thing or another, but it was a lot of things that led up to that shot that House took, or that free throw that Royce O'Neal didn't get to put themselves in that position. So, and that's probably the way that some coaches will look at it. But from our eyes, those are crucial plays that didn't happen.
Down 2 at that point, worth remembering.
Yeah.
All right, Jazz lose it tonight. Sorry to have to bring this one to you. Tried to be as honest as we could, and hopefully it is a moment we look back on at the end of the season and say, wow, that was the crucial last kind of insult to injury of a reoccurring theme that they solved in their final 15 games before they head to the playoffs. We'll hope that's the case. Congratulations to Greg Popovich on the historic 1,336th win. On behalf of Ron, I'm David.